What's up, everyone? My name is Lee, and I just wanted to do a quick little intro. I'm gonna be starting a YouTube channel, and what I'm gonna be doing is showing what I do. I do Braille, so I just wanted to start a channel, and start helping people that transcribe Braille, so I can, teach them things for anyone that's trying to learn. You can see I got a book going on right here. I'm doing a novel called A Dark Sacred Night. But yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself, and I'm gonna hop onto the computer now and show you what I'm doing. So hey guys, this is a program I use here. It's called Braille 2000, and I'm not quite sure how to show both of my screens. So I'm just going to slide this over just for a second. But what I do is I have the PDF of the book over here on my right screen, which you're not able to see once I have it normal. I just wanted to kind of show you what I have on my right screen is the PDF of the book, and then I have the program right here with the Braille, so I can just kind of go back and forth between screens and follow where I'm at. So what I do mainly is I just go through, make sure all the paragraphs are formatted properly. So like for this paragraph here, it starts with Ballard felt the heavy, so you can see that it's indented here just as it is in print, and this paragraph and this paragraph are both indented. So then I make sure all the paragraphs are formatted properly. I have to go in and insert all the page numbers so they match up with the proper print page numbers. So as I scroll through this, I'm just checking paragraphs. I'm checking any word that's highlighted in red. That's the program saying that they're not 100% sure that this is spelled right. So I just give that a quick glance, and it is spelled right. Oh, and I have this split into two screens. So this print part down here on the bottom half is what this Braille on the top part means, or basically what it reads. So like this sentence here, I'm sure I looked. This is it right here in Braille. So you can see your opening quotation, capital I, apostrophe M, SURE, period, capital I, LOOKED, and the period. So yeah, I just scroll through. It's a pretty tedious process. Another big thing I check is punctuation. So all these are good, and so this word here is highlighted in red. So most proper nouns are highlighted in red because they're not in the dictionary, I guess you could say. So what I can do to make it where it doesn't show it red every time, like if a word appears in this book a lot of times and I don't want to have to keep looking at it to make sure it's spelled right, I can just right click on it, click on spelling, and hit add to dictionary, and it'll make the red go away. So you're not seeing it, but like whenever my mouse goes out of the screen, what it's doing is it's going over to the next screen and scrolling down on that PDF, so I can basically have the paragraphs lined up, so I can just scan across the other screen to make sure that the paragraphs are formatted right. So on these, they are correct. I mean, they're in a 3:1 format, but they don't have any run over. So the program has them in a 3:3, which when this gets printed out, it's going to be fine, but I just like making it a 3:1. It doesn't change anything, but I just like doing that. One big mistake that a lot of times this program makes is if there's a abbreviation, if there's a punctuation and a closing quotation, sometimes it'll miss that punctuation. So like if it's a comma or a period, sometimes it'll leave that out. So anytime there's a punctuation and closing apostrophe, always double check that to make sure it did put that punctuation in there. So here we're got a page change indicator. So this tells the reader that it's going to print page 244. And if I bring this over here, you can see that we just finished page 243. From this sentence, you moved into here because you got, and then you can see here and here because you got. Here's your page change indicator. The next page starts with the word read, and you can see that it's matching up properly here. So like this is highlighted red, but it's fine. I haven't came across any mistakes yet. The company I work for, they send me this. What they do is they OCR the PDF file into a Word doc, to a docx, and then they take that docx and throw it into this program here, Braille 2000. And Braille 2000, it gets about 80% of it right. And so it's my job as the transcriber to go through and make sure it matches the print copy as accurately as possible. You're not going to catch every error, but you know you try and catch all of them, but you know you're not going to. So I'm just trying to. So far, I haven't came across any errors to show you guys, so I can fix it. It gets this like this big print paragraph here. With there being no italicized words and no words highlighted in red, it's going to transcribe this or translate this, however you want to say it, pretty much at 100% accurate every time. So I can scan this really fast and just move on to the next paragraph. This looks good. They got our punctuation here. That looks good. These are more proper nouns that are highlighted in red. Those are good. Condo's good. Oh, this is good. Going to the next page. Oh, that's good. Now these are going to print properly, but see these little red circles? This means that that's the start of a new paragraph. So the way that it is right now, these two lines here, 4 and 5, it's treating them as the same paragraph as this, which they're not. So what I do is I hit enter, and you can see it putting in the red circles there. And this one is actually part of this paragraph, but it's got a red circle indicating it's a new paragraph. So I just click right there and hit backspace, and it takes away the red circle, and it's in the 3:1 format. Oh, this is good. Oh, this looks good. So here's our first error right here. Anytime, this is the start of the next chapter. Bring it over here so I can show you. Chapter 28. So anytime you have a center heading, you got to have a blank line before and after. So the center heading, it needs a blank line before, after this page change indicator. So if I put the blank line before, then anytime, another rule for a center heading is anytime you have a center heading, you got to have at least one line of print on that same Braille page. And with this being on line 25, there's no line of text after the center heading, so it can't be on line 25 by itself. So what we have to do is move this page change indicator down to line 1. move this up to line 1, and then here's 2 blank lines, and it's only supposed to be 1, so that's how that'll be there. So like if you look over here, this will tell you that I'm on page 50. Well, I'm on ordinal page 50. And the agency that I work for, they don't want you to have more than 160 pages. And this book that I'm doing, it's going to be 4 volumes. So what you want to do is the volumes have to be within 20 pages each of each other, and they want you to get to as close as 160 pages as you can. So the way I got it broke up right now, each volume is around 148 pages. So this is volume 3 that I'm working on. So I got about 100 more Braille pages left in this volume here. And we get paid $2 per Braille page. So there's 25 lines on this page, and we get paid $2 per page. So all this looks good. All this is good. And like I said, man, I'm checking punctuation, opening, closing, quotations, commas, periods, and all this looks good. Sometimes you get a really bad translation, and it comes in really bad, and you're having to make a ton of changes. And it's kind of based on the font and how good the PDF copy is. So they're not using crazy curved font, and it's not too light. So this came in pretty well. So there's very minimal errors, which is a good thing, but it's also bad because there's not many errors. You can kind of lose focus and just go through the motions and overlook something pretty easily. So maybe I can find something that we need to change a good bit, like some display material or something. The word dumpster, it's spelled right. So if we look up here at the Braille, anytime if you want to check the spelling on something, never check the print. Always look at the Braille. So we look up here and we have our contractions in here, the ST and ER contractions. So that's spelled right. So we can right click on that. The only reason I'm right clicking on it is because I see it here and here. So that means that it could, over the next few pages, it could be on here quite a lot. So I'll just go ahead and add it to the dictionary really fast. So, oh, and anytime I need to look up a rule, I use this here, Rules of UEB 2013. Has all the rules in it. Well, not all the rules, but it has a lot of good, useful information in it. And then I use Braille Formats 2016. So it's got all the sections over here. So sometimes if I need to look up a rule, and I'll pull those out. So this here, LA is Braille properly. Sometimes like this capital I here, sometimes it'll do every capital I as a number 1 in the transcription, and that's a nightmare. So you have to go through and change each I that's standing alone into an actual I instead of a number 1. So yeah, I've been brailing for about 4 years now, and sometimes it gets boring, I guess you could say, but gotta do what you gotta do, right? So yeah, this is just a pretty smooth translation. I mean, we're just like, this is another, the reason this is highlighted red is because it's a proper noun. So we just glance over to the print and verify that it's spelled properly, and it is. So just keep moving on that. Sometimes you see these dashes. Sometimes when I get this Braille copy, it'll be brought over as a long dash. Like if you look up here in the Braille, and if you put that 5 dot in, that right there, these 3 cells is the long dash. But it really should be a short dash. So like I said, sometimes I get them where it's like this, and I just have to do a find and replace all the long dashes with the short dash. So this is this dude's name again. I'm gonna add him to the dictionary so it doesn't keep showing red for his name. So email, it is spelled properly too, MAILED. So that's right. Picks up on the next print page. LAPD, all cap. That's right. So I'll go ahead and add it to the dictionary. RHD, that's spelled properly. Sometimes, like earlier in this book, I had, I'll come right here. I had that right there, but it was, so it used the contraction. It used the ER contraction, but it was talking about the emergency room, so it was calling it the ER. So anytime you have an abbreviation where you say each letter, you can't use the contraction. So ER, you can't use the contraction. So for like the contraction LED, for like light emitting diode, or however you say it, emitting diode, like the little light, you can't use this ED contraction, because if you say each letter in an abbreviation, you have to spell it out like that. So that was how you do that. And then for the ER, it would be like that. So that's a common error that I come across, is these abbreviations, they're using contractions if they're actually each letter is pronounced. So hopefully that makes sense. Oh, this looks good. Here's another instance where it's going to print out right, but it's just something that I like doing. Like I said, it's treating this paragraph as the same paragraph as this, because you don't see a red circle out here, and it's treating this separate from this, but it's really not. It's actually the same. So if I hit backspace, it's gonna make this, all 3 of these, one paragraph, and it's got them in a 3-3. Well, they're supposed to be in a 3-1. So what I do is I hit enter here to create its own paragraph, and then I hit highlight these 2, and I can come over here and change the paragraph style to 3-1. And when I do it, you'll see it kick this over to cell 1. So I choose 3-1 and then apply to highlighted text, and you can see it kick that over to cell 1. So here's another example of an abbreviation, but since there's no contractions is, you don't have to really worry about it, but it's where you say each letter. So this is USC. So I'm trying to think of one where you don't pronounce each letter. So like, I'll be thinking of one as we go along here. So dirtbag, I'll look over in the print and it's spelled like it is in print, so that's correct. So this here, these are single quotations. So I have to, you always want to check those. So we have the word eagle in single quotation. So if I bring the print over, you can see it here that eagle's in single quotation. So that's right. And this is good. So we can see here that this word is being shown a lot. So I'll go ahead and add it to the dictionary. Another error sometimes I see is like when you have the word in touching a punctuation, and it'll have in the in contraction. So like it'll have it like this, and you know you can't have you can't have the in contraction if it's not touching a 1 or 4 dot. So since this comma is here, you can't have the in contraction, so it has to be spelled out like that. So that goes for the in contraction, it goes for the enough contraction. Any contraction that doesn't have an upper dot, if it's not touching something that has an upper dot, you have to spell it out. So this steampunk is spelled like it is in print, so it's good. Oh, that's good. So we're on print page 251. This USC is showing up a good bit, so I'm going to ahead and add it to the dictionary. Now, it might seem like I'm doing this pretty fast, but like I said, I'm on a 3rd volume, so after you do the first couple volumes, you kind of get a feel of the errors that the program made when it brought in the docx. So, like I said, sometimes it'll be this, and if that was the case in this book, I would have already known that. So I know that that's not an error that's going to be showing up a lot in this book because it hasn't shown up yet. And there's hardly any italicized words in this book, so that's another thing you have to look for a lot. So where there not being many, I can go a good bit faster. But overall, like I said, this book came in really nice, so there's not a whole lot of errors in it, and the ones that are in it, I know what to look for because, like I said, I've already done a few volumes. So, and the main errors that I'm finding in this book are mainly paragraph formatting, and also I did a control find on 2 errors that I was finding, so they're not going to be showing up at all anymore. And one of those was if you had a word, let's just say it was a word that ended in an S, but it was showing ownership. It was possessive. So let's see. I'll use my last name for example. So this is my last name, and if I wanted to show ownership here, I would put an apostrophe here. Well, in the book, it was putting the closing single quotation. I mean, it kind of looks like an apostrophe, but it's a closing quotation, and you don't go off of this, you go off of the Braille. So if a Braille reader was reading this, they would read it as a closing quotation, which is wrong. So you would just come in and change it to an apostrophe. So what I done was I did a control find for S and then closing single quotation, and made sure that it was meant to be an apostrophe, and I did a find and replace all. So that error is not showing up anymore. And then another error I was finding was, so you would have an opening quotation and then you would have a sentence like, hey, closing quotation, and then you would have an opening quotation and another sentence. So the error is you're never going to have this. You're never going to have a closing quotation and an opening quotation back to back like that. They're supposed to be separate paragraphs. So what I done was, but it was making a mistake of putting them on the same line, so basically making them the same paragraph. So what I done was I done a control find for closing quotation, opening quotation, and anytime I found that this was the case, I went ahead and moved this paragraph down to the next line. So I have went through and removed all those errors too. So that was two errors I was finding a lot in the first volume. So I went ahead and did a control find for the whole book. So I won't be coming across that one anymore. Oh, and another one, you can't really do a control find on it, but I've found it like 3 times so far. Anytime we start a new page, a new print page, sometimes this will be either indented in cell 3 and it needs to be in cell 1, or to be in cell 1 but it needs to be in cell 3. So for every first word of a new print page, I'm checking that to make sure that it's in the right cell, either cell 1 or cell 3. So all this is good. Hopefully you're not getting too bored. I would play some music, but I don't know YouTube's terms on that. So like I said, this is just really easy transcribing. There's very few errors. Okay, here's an error right here. So I'll bring the print over so we can look at it together. Oh man. Okay, here it is. Hopefully I can make this small enough and you still be able to see it. Okay, so just glancing at this print, all these are new paragraphs. So cell 3, cell 3, cell 3, cell 3, cell 3. This is a run over from this, so that should be in cell 1. So, and then it's a new paragraph in cell 3. So this new paragraph here, Ballard said, digital Ballard said. See, it's got print up here on this same paragraphs, but really print is supposed to start a new paragraph. So come over here, hit enter, and it's going to bring print down. And that's pretty much it for that error. So now we can see they're all in cell 3. This runs over into cell 1. So it's a quick little fix. But it just, like I knew that right away that was an error just based on the way it looked, just by glancing at it. So here we have another error, which is making this error every single time we come to a new chapter. This center header needs to have a blank line before it. So we'll put a blank line before it. And it's putting 2 lines before the text starts, but it's only supposed to do 1. So we'll go there and delete that blank line. So on to page 254. I've been kind of forgetting, I guess because I'm making this video, but normally I come up here and hit this save button about every couple of minutes because I've done hours of Braille, especially if I was doing math or something where there's a ton of work that goes into it, and something happened, either the program freeze up or power go off, anything, and I lose my work, and that's really bad. So yeah, I like to get in the habit of saving every couple of minutes. A lot of times when you're starting a new chapter, you're going to get this big letter here, and you might not know whether that's indented or not, but from my experience, anytime you start a new chapter, it's always blocked in cell 1. So with that letter, you can't really tell that, but I always block the first paragraph of new chapters. So this is our first italicized word we came across. You can see our italic word indicator here. And to verify that it is italicized in print, it's right there. So that's good to go. Oh, that is good. Like I said, we're starting our new page, so we want to make sure that that is a new paragraph. And we can look right here and see it does start a new paragraph, so that's good. Another big problem I run into is ellipsis. It's kind of a weird word, but a lot of times it'll be right up against the word, but it's supposed to be spaced away. Or sometimes it'll be like that, but it needs to be all together. But this book got it right, so it's good to go. Another capital word, or sorry, proper word, so they're in red, but they're spelled right, so they're good to go. This ellipsis is good. ellipsis is good here. Oh, this is good. So here's an example of what I was telling you earlier, how this was contraction has to be spelled out. The word was has to be spelled out and not the normal contraction, because in this series here there wouldn't be a cell that had an upper dot, which is the 1 and 4 dot, so it has to be spelled out. Okay, good. So here is what I was saying just a few minutes ago. New page, and this here, the Braille is saying that it's a new paragraph, but the print, it's not a new paragraph because you can see it's not indented. So here's where the indent should be. Like these 3 paragraphs here are indented, and you can see that's way over. So that's actually an error, so we just need to back that up to cell 1, just like that. So we got more single quotations. Checking the print, those are good. Ellipsis is good. Oh, this is good. So yeah, it took me about 6 months to get certified, and have my literary certification, and I've worked on my NEMA certification some, which is the science and math. So you see this gray line right here? What that is that's the page change indicator, and you can't have a page change indicator on line 25. So you just put your cursor right there at the end of line 24, hit enter, and it moves that down. So line 25 will be blank, and then the page change indicator is on line 1. Check, so like I said about how when we start a new print page, make sure that's right, which it is. Okay, so here is one of those where I was talking about how you have an abbreviation. Can't remember what you call those. But basically, CON is a contraction. Well, if you say that, I don't know how to say this like properly, and sometimes that's the situation you run into, but if the way you say this is CONUS, then you don't use the con contraction. But I really think this is CONUS based on this right here. I think it stands for Continental US. So I think the proper way to say this is CONUS. And since that's the case, you should use the CON contraction. So I'm going to take that out, put that in there like that. but then again, you are saying US. So this is a tough one because if they're reading this, they're gonna say Conus. When I think the right way to say this is Con US. So something like that, I'm gonna go to. I'm not even gonna go to the rules. I'm gonna go to the actual course. So I'm going to go to nfb.org/Braille Transcribing. So this is the actual course that you have to take to get certified. So pull up the table of contents really fast. And it's going to be in lesson 13. Abbreviations, acronyms. That's the word that's the real word for it. I was calling it abbreviation, but it's really an acronym. So lesson 13. So let's look at lesson 13. Abbreviations in general. It's not what we need. Capitalization, contractions, and abbreviations. That's not what we need either. Right here, initials and acronyms. Initials and abbreviations that consist of the first letters of several words are pronounced as letters. It is preferred that contractions not be used, which is what I was saying earlier. But in our example, it's a little different. An acronym is abbreviation that uses the first letter. So medico, you're going to use contractions. Fortran, you're going to use contractions as well. And so that's what I was saying. But in our example, I mean, you say the first part, and then the last two are abbreviations. So it's weird. Con US. CON US. I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you, about this one. Con US. Because, as I said, I'm pretty sure the right way to say this acronym is Con US. And if that is true, we use this CON contraction. But what is also true is if a student is reading this, or whoever's reading this book in Braille, and they read this word, I feel like they're going to read this as conus, and that's not the right way to say it. But if you don't use that abbreviation there, and you do it like that, I feel like they're going to read it as CONUS, like how you would say that, like this is, you would say this is DAR. You wouldn't say it as DAR. And like that abbreviation I gave you earlier, that example I gave you earlier with ER as the emergency room, you're not going to say you're going to say ER. And LED, you're not going to say LED, you're going to say each letter LED. So with this, I feel like they would say CONUS. So I'm going to abbreviate it, or I'm going to use the contraction, and hopefully that is right. Sometimes it's just a judgment call. There isn't a clear cut rule example. So here is an instance where one of our rules, and this is just a rule that our agency has. Well, actually it's an NLS rule, but anytime there's a dash, you don't put a space before or after it, regardless of print. So that's how this is done here. But there's also a rule that states if by doing this, by keeping it together, it's going to create 10 or more blank cells on the line before, you should break it up. So if we count these cells that's going to be left blank here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's only 9. But let's say this word wasn't here. We would clearly have 10 cells, so we would have to break this up. So we would come right here and put the space after the dash to move that up a line. But since there isn't 10 cells, then we keep it together like that. So we have to look out for that to make sure that we're not leaving more than 10 blank cells in an instance where we're keeping words together connected by a dash. So here is our example again of needing the blank line before a centered heading. All right, we need to look at this right here. Normally, with it being in quotations and italicized, we would drop the italics, but our rule is if it's a foreign phrase, you keep both. So this is foreign, so we keep both. But what we need to do is we need to enclose. Basically, the italics needs to come after the opening quotation. So like that, and that's fine. So that's the right way to do it right there. But if this was an English phrase, then we would drop the italics. And that's just based on the rules for NLS. So new page, make sure our paragraph is right, and it is. A lot of times it'll miss these accent marks, but it's got this one in there, so that's right. It has to go on our special symbols page, so every time you come across a special symbol, you need to make a note of that so you can add it to the special symbols page later. Here's another instance where it's going to print out right, but I don't like the way that it's doing it because it's treating the paragraphs not properly, although it would print properly. So I'll go ahead and create that as a new paragraph, move that over, and make that a 3-1. So that's how you do that. The reason it does that is it treats all these one-line paragraphs as 3-3. So, like, if you look, I select this paragraph. If you look right here, you can see it says 3-3. Click on that one, 3-3. Click on that one, 3-3. And they're really 3-1s, but since they don't run over, it's fine. But I just like making them 3-1s anyway, so I created a speed braille key, or a speed key, however you say it, and so I highlight all 3 of them. Instead of having to come over here, right click, come up here, clicking on 3-1 and clicking that. It's just like 3 or 4 clicks. All I do is highlight it, and I set a key on my keyboard, which is F1. I hit F1, and it moves them all to 3-1. So you can see now, if I click, it's 3-1, 3-1, and 3-1. So I created a speed key to make that really fast. So this is highlighted red, so it's basically saying look at the spelling, make sure this is right. And it is right. It's got that red and this red because they're proper nouns, but they're spelled right. So those are good to go. Normally, like I say, to check this paragraph to make sure that it's right. Well, you can see that this sentence doesn't end, so this is a continuation from this paragraph, so we know right off the bat that this needs to be in cell 1, and that's right. So I'll just go a little bit longer. I know you probably maybe getting a little bored, so I'll probably do another 10 pages or so and let that be it. We're on page 70 now, so we'll go to page 80. So here's another example of how I was treating all these as 3 3s, but they're really 3 1s. So I highlight them all and I hit my speed key, and now they're all 3 1s. So all this is looking pretty good. Here's another example of where it's putting this print page change indicator on line 25, but it can't be there, so we move it down to the next page. And this is, we have to follow print on how it breaks this word up, forensic, so we can see it's broken after, it's got the hyphen after en, so en, and then starts the new line there. Now, if this was a different word, and let's say the continuation of the word was ing, you can't, and since ing is a contraction, you know, you would normally use that when it's inside of a word, but you can't use it if it's standing alone. So if this was a continuation of a word, like I said, and it was ing, you wouldn't use the ing contraction. You could use the in contraction, but then you would have to just use the letter G. So just a note on that. This book's really easy too because there's not a whole lot of dialogue going back and forth. So like a lot of books, there's a ton of it, and so you're having to check a ton of paragraphs. Like, I mean, here you have I mean, you have 8 lines of a paragraph. I mean, and then you have another 10 there. So I mean, you got 20 lines of just straight paragraph, and so you can zoom through that. Where here you can see a little dialogue going on, so you're having to check to make sure the paragraphs are formatted properly. You're having to check these quotations. So, but this book doesn't have a lot of dialogue, so it's pretty easy. Another example of not being able to use the N contraction. So that's right.
Okay, so probably go another 5 minutes or so here, and we'll get this thing wrapped up. And hopefully you guys enjoy what I showed y'all. I don't know if there's too many people on YouTube looking for Braille information, but hopefully I can help you learn some things and we can learn from each other. So I'll just do a few more pages here and wrap it up. Okay, so right off the bat here, I see that Renee is missing the accent mark. We can see it right here. So that first E right here in Renee, and anytime I make a correction, I come up here in the Braille and do it. So she needs the cube symbol, so we just add in those two cells there, and that will give us the accent over the E. So that fixes that error. We can see that it was put in here, so that's good to go. Okay, last page. So it's saying we need to look at this word here, text, T-E-C-H-S. So that's spelled right. That's good to go. And we'll do this last page down to this, last paragraph down to this print page here. So all that's good to go. So I'll click save my work. So yeah, that's it, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed the first video here. I'll be uploading some on a regular basis, hoping we can grow as a community, learning, the ins and outs of transcribing Braille. I know there's not a ton of transcribers out there, but it's a tight-knit community, so hopefully, like I said, you gain some value from the video. I hope you like and subscribe and continue to watch future videos of mine. And so I just wanted to thank you, and I hope y'all enjoy your day.
So that's it, everyone. I was showing y'all this novel that I was transcribing, and this is my first video. So hopefully y'all guys learned something from it, and hope you continue to watch them, and hopefully we can learn from each other. And that's it, guys.